Hi, everyone. It's so good to be here again with my beautiful ladies, Megan and Suzy. So, today we are very excited. We are going to talk about school. It's
Wow.
a very nice topic that we have in every country, but in a very different way. So, today we are going to talk about difference in Brazil, in Cameroon, and South Africa. And so don't forget to subscribe and like and make your comments about how was your experience in the school. And so my first question is how can you tell me a little bit about how was the little Megan and little Susie in the school? How was your experience in the school? Huh?
Oh my goodness. Thanks, Renata. Hi, Suzy. Good to be with you guys again, and welcome to our viewers and our listeners. Yeah, for me, I was one of those kids that I wanted to be at school, right? I traditionally, at that time, school started at 6 years of age. And when I got to 5 years old, I really wanted to go to school. I was just one of those kids. And my parents made a plan. And so I started school a year earlier, right? And I loved it. I enjoyed school, but I've always been very curious, love learning, that kind of thing. So for me, that's where my schooling career started. And yes, I had difficult periods that I can think back to at school, but generally, for me, school was fun. I'm one of the people that actually misses school these days.
During the holidays, you want to come back to the school.
Not quite holidays, but now that I'm an adult, now I miss school.
Oh, okay.
All right. Thank you for sharing, Megan. And thank you guys for being here. It's a pleasure to be with you, ladies, all the time. And my experience at school actually was a little bit different because my parents are from a French background, because my country is bilingual, French and English. And my mother had a brilliant idea to put me to the English section. So I had nobody that actually speaks English at home to help me on my own section. But no, I'm a smart child. So I made my way out of it. So my mother,
Yes.
she's wonderful. So I went to the English section. I really liked school, especially mathematics and everything that does with computer. I was like, I'm there forever. So what I think my parents did a great job and uh having me do extra classes. So I was doing too much school. So after school, I have to stay to do the extra school because there's nobody else at home that can help me because of language barrier. But it was super fun. Like I got to know my teachers more because I spent most of the time with them, but it was nice. I really liked it. I really liked the school experience and all things. Yeah.
Cool.
So, Susie, tell us, please, when did you start school? Because Megan was at 5. And what about you?
3 years and a half.
Wow, my goodness.
Wow.
Yes.
That's awesome.
It's like pre-nursery, if you know about it. It's like pre-nursery where you go to like
Yes.
you kick your children earlier because of their curiosity is just more than what you can imagine. You can manage.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like you bye.
Wow, I was the rebel in the school. I think after 10 years old, something like that, I started to hate school. Hate, hate, hate. Like it was horrible because I think at that time I wanted to be a fish. I wanted to be swimming all the time. And I was like, no, there's no water in the school. And I always complain with my father. I say, there's the school have no trees. And my father, yes, you don't need tree to learn. I was like, no, I need tree. And today, I worked with forests, so I started to understand my feelings. But the school
Yes.
was very difficult for me to be in a locked space as a young child all the time. I was like, oh, I didn't feel good. Yeah. So, what is the educational system in South Africa and Cameroon? And I would love to understand better the different challenges that the kids and the families have. And I know, as Susie and Megan said in the different episodes, that they come from countries that have very a lot of different ethnicity, tribes, and I think that can impact in the educational system if I'm not wrong. So I would love to
Yes.
understand better that.
Awesome. Susie, do you want to start with this one?
No problem. So in Cameroon, actually, the educational system is two ways. No matter where you're from, it is two ways: the French section and the English section. It is not the same. Like the English section, girls turns to specialize early on in life than the French section. You only specialize once you have like your like once you go to college. That is where you think about what can do I actually want to be. Why in the English section they start thinking about it early on in your fair, like in sixth grade, the way you start asking you question, what do you actually want to be? And you start like
Yes.
going to that specialty bit by bit upward. And before you go to college, you're already at doing like three subjects only or four subjects only to go to college. So I know I want to be a doctor, I want to do computer, I want to do math,
Yes.
specializing very early. And that and I think that's the beauty of it. I from a French family that went to an English school section. It was rough, guys. Like there's nobody you can go to with assignments. So it is like either you survive, but you don't have to bring like very low marks or notes because the your parents is like, I spend a lot of money on you. You better succeed. You're like,
Yeah.
okay. I think I better have to succeed. I have no choice at this point. And so I think on my own time, my parents did a great job. They gave me the extra needed,
Yes.
extra help I needed by giving me more work to do. So I turned out at the end, I was like, oh, this code thing, I don't think it's for me. I don't think it's for me. Maybe it's
Shame.
for somebody. Yes, I was like, this code thing, I don't think it's mine. But
Yes.
I still love school. I went to school again and again and again and again and again, and I'm still going to school.
Yeah, it tends to become a lifelong thing, eh?
Yes, it definitely changed my point of view a lot.
Oh, thank you,
Absolutely.
Susie. Beautiful. What about you, Megan?
So Renata, for me, I went to a local school. When I initially started, I traveled to school. So I went out of my area because we had to find a place for the 5-year-old Megan to start attending big school. And so I traveled out of my area, loved it. It was actually a Roman Catholic school that I went, although I wasn't raised Roman Catholic. It was just they had place for me, and that's where I ended up.
Oh,
And that was for the first 2 years of my early school career. And then I went to school locally within my area, as in I walked to school every day and walked back home. And, just in the little community that I grew up in, that's where I went to primary and high school. And for us, it was also about your English language, first language for myself, and then typically Afrikaans, our second language, right? And over the years, things have changed so much because now we've got 12 official languages in South Africa. They've just approved recently sign language as the 12th language. We used to have 11. And initially, very early on, I never really mixed with people outside of English and Afrikaans speaking, families. And the further I got along in my schooling career, the more I started mixing with people outside of English and Afrikaans. And so it became this really fun thing to start learning other languages. As little as you picked up, you could start communicating and greeting everyone. And for me, I think it was a matter of school was my most social space. I was very introverted. I had friends all along, but I see myself as having been a total introvert. And today I meet people that were at school with me, especially in my younger years, and they say, but you were so quiet. What happened to you? Because I had a very small group of friends that I sort of traveled throughout my career with at school. But I remember being this really social person within that group, and everybody else saw me as a nerd because I loved my school and always did my homework, and someone that just I had my little circle, right? And that was pretty much me. So I just carried on regardless.
Nice.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, so it's I think it's wonderful that you both bring the language thing, and in Brazil we all the school are in Portuguese, and we have bilingual schools that can be English, can be French, can be Italian, but that's much more focused on those communities. And sometimes, of course, because of the marketing international, a lot of I can say wealthy families want their kids to go to bilingual school, because they,
Yes.
especially when they we say bilingual, it's normally in English, even if we have French and German too,
Yes.
and Spanish, but it's more English. But basic school still is in Portuguese, and we have English as a subject, and sometimes Spanish. But I cannot say that just with the school you are going to speak English. You need more
Yes.
classes outside of the school. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yes.
And another curiosity is who pay the school? So is it public? Is it does the family need to pay it? How it works in the country and the system, and how was it for you in your experience?
so in my experience,
First, I'm sorry. Yeah.
in my experience, it was like we have public schools, but they are not free. School is not free in Cameroon. Like if you go to school, you have to pay for it. And
Yes.
so like the public schools are cheaper than the private schools and more affordable. So I think the rich people send their children to the private school because it's
Yes.
more like focus on the
Yes.
children. There are less children in schools
Yes.
than the actual public school where you have a lot more of children and the follow up is not really it. For example, I went to a public private school, it's public slash private school, but like there they had to like pay the teachers extra so that I can have focus
Yes.
them focus on me because I needed extra help from because I was from a French family and I
Yes.
didn't have any extra help for the English part. So I had to have extra classes with the teachers, extra like relationship with the teacher that follow up, specific follow up.
Right.
But for others, I think public school is the public school and it's not that expensive and education is not that rigid. You don't have that
Yes.
follow up that you have in the private school. But I think it's the same like around
Yes.
So the private school are the best ones.
yes, because you have follow up.
And what about the people that cannot afford? So what kind of education do they have?
Known if you don't
Oh,
have money to go to school, you stay home. And
okay.
but you also have like some organization that are financing children to go to school, but
Yes.
we have no there's no we don't have free schools.
Yes.
No
I,
free
and I
stuff.
think in the US we have a US there's free schools till you go to college. So it's free till you have to go. But back home no. They have
No.
money, no school.
Wow. Wow.
How
That's
is it in Megan in South Africa?
well, I seem to be a mix between the two of you. So when I was growing up and at school, our parents paid. And that's typically being the way. And again, we've got the private and the public schools as well. And, depending on how you want to focus your child or what Suzy mentioned, I think is very important, how many kids per classroom, because that just allows special attention, special focus, and all of that again, as Suzy said. But these days, there's a large shift in our space to no fee schools. So it is subsidized fully by the government and by taxpayers, where certain schools do not require the parents to pay for their kids to be there. But I can definitely say, from being a tutor in the literacy space over the last few years, it puts a total burden on the system. It puts a burden on the teachers because the classrooms are that much bigger, right? Because everybody wants to get their child that might not have had an opportunity to be at school, as Suzy mentioned, into a school. And if it's a no-fee school, that's their option, right? And so there's a lot of pressure on the system and on the outcomes, the educational outcomes, the
Mm.
quality of the schooling is definitely affected. That much I can tell at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, in Brazil it's the same. We have public and private school, and but the inequalities of the socioeconomic in the country we can see very clear in
Yes,
the educational system.
yes,
So the public schools, we say it's free, but nothing is free. No, so it's
yes,
paid for the tax. So it's
yes,
the right of the any Brazilians or people that live in Brazil. It doesn't matter if you are born there or not, but the quality of the study is not as good as the private one. It doesn't mean that all the private schools are good. That's not that's far from reality. We have
yes,
private schools that are very easy for the students just to follow up, but it's related normally. So the inequality is very big. We can have a very um, a good quality of education in Brazil,
yes,
but we can have also a very bad quality. It depends.
yes,
It depends the socioeconomic and geographic also, because
yes,
even if you have money and there is no good school around, so you have no choice, and
yes.
the best schools are in the big cities, in
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
big centers, and of course, that's how it is.
Yeah,
Yes,
definitely
yeah,
agree with you.
yeah.
Yeah. What about the religion? So, did you study in a religion school or not? Are the schools related with religion? Do they have classes of religion? You can choose the religion. So how is it? Susan, first.
Okay, like back home we have schools like Catholic schools or other schools, other different religion. And in Catholic school, actually, you study, you have prayer time, you have meditation time, you have this. You respect the religion of the
Yes,
school as long as you're in the school. So you
yes,
must respect that part of it. And we have a lot of non-religion school that they don't even care about whatever you do is your problem.
yes,
And
yes,
but that different, you can actually notice the difference because religious schools are more studious and they tend to be the best schools of the country compared to like non-religious ones, and they
right.
tend to be more expensive. Like from back home, my experience and what I know about it is that like the religious schools are actually the best back home.
Okay, that's interesting.
How,
That's interesting.
how is it in South Africa, Megan?
South Africa, a lot of the schools when I was growing up, we observed religion, right? But it was universal. It was, we would pray in the mornings, for example,
Mhm.
at our primary schools, and we would pray in the mornings, but it doesn't really matter if you follow Islam or Christianity. It was just that was the way we started the day. And in recent times, though, people are now fighting that, saying, but you're only catering for Christianity. And you're not praying for people in that follow the Islamic faith, for example. So there's a lot of back and forth about it, and it's become more of a fight about it than it is just let's just get and keep religion in the school on some level, right? Because that's what I think was being done for us years ago. It was just the fact that we started the day with a prayer. And this was even outside of the Catholic school that I first attended. So for us it is at this point in time, depends on which school you are at, whether or not they actually even observe religion on any level. And then aside from that, for example, my friends that follow Islam, they went to an Islamic school after school. So they went for classes to study their religion, but it was completely separate to our traditional school, right? And there are schools that are Catholic schools where there are nuns teaching, perhaps. There are schools for within the Islamic religion where people can go and they learn about their religion as one of their subjects. So there's a great variety with us available to people, but it does really depend on where you are at and how you fit into the system that's been created.
Yeah, definitely. I want to add on that. Make it like in Cameroon is the same. Like they do have different like schools and different religion and
Yes,
things like that. So I think it's like probably the same
the
thing going
same,
on. Yeah.
probably, yes.
Hmm.
I think Brazil is not that different because we have a country, so the government is not related to a religion. So we accept all kind of religions in our country. And the public school, they have no religion classes. So if your family comes from any religion, you have to learn that outside of the school
Yes,
with your family and with the religion community.
yes,
And but in private schools, you are going to have schools that have no religions at all, no classes about that. But you also have the Catholic schools, the Jewish schools, and
yes,
then it's up to the family, to the parents, to choose this school. And normally they are private, so they have to pay for
yes,
it.
right.
And yeah, yeah, so that's how it works in Brazil. Yeah,
Okay.
so it's very interesting to see how difference and similarities we have from different countries, even in education. And
Yeah.
how it is, the time that kids spend in the school. So, uh, uh,
Like the school system.
yeah, the activities, what do they do in the school? So do they have homework for doing at home, or do they do all the homework at school? Do they spend, like, do they have lunch in the school, or do they come at home to have lunch? So how is it in Susie?
So I want to start by telling you the school system in Cameroon. In Cameroon, we don't have like sixth grade, fifth grade. We don't have it. We have pre-nursery. That's for those that the little people going to school very early. We have nursery school. That's a 2-year program. Then we have the primary school. That's a 6-year program. That is class one, class two till class six. Then we have
Yes.
a secondary school. That is a 7-year program. So we have from one to from five, and then we have lower seats and upper seats. So that is the whole system. And
Okay.
after that, then you can go to college. So that's the
Yes.
system we have. And depending on the school you're going, we don't have most of the school don't have feeding on down, not college.
Canteen.
In
Yes.
in a, if you're from high school going downward, you don't have school feeding at school. You feed
Yes.
yourself back home. We have what we call a canteen where you can go and buy food, but it's not like a place that you say okay after break, because here there's like a place after break I'm going to the cafeteria. There's no like
Yes.
cafeteria thing. It's not like
Right.
a thing
Right.
unless you're in the very rich schools that it becomes a thing, but
Yes.
it's not.
So
Yes.
you bring some snacks from home? How do
Yes.
you do?
Yes.
Okay.
Generally, like your mother will put the snacks in your bag. Oh, just give you money so that you can buy it. You go to the canteen and buy the snacks when you
Yes.
don't have time to do it.
Right. Yeah.
How is
I
it
had
in South
similar.
Africa?
Similar thing. I actually just the other week had a conversation around canteens at schools with some of my peers in the States, and we're working on this literacy project together. And they were so surprised to hear that we actually don't have canteens in all our schools, right, in South Africa. And I'm like, that was never a norm for us.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain schools, as Suzy says, that you have it, but it's I would say probably 80%, if not more, of the schools don't have a canteen here. So we are accustomed to packing our own lunches, where Suzy said, getting some money if your parents could afford it, for you to buy something at the tuck shop, like, just selling bits and pieces on the school premises. But it is really not an established thing for most of South Africa. It is not. And my peers were so surprised to find that out. And the sad thing, though, is socioeconomics play a huge role in that. So there might be organizations that help the schools out and support the schools and have a feeding scheme where they will bring soup and bread in winter and feed, the kids at the school. But it depends on funding. And so certain kids whose parents couldn't afford to pack lunches, their kids might not have a meal at school, or for the day, or for 2 days, or 3 days. And that's unfortunately a reality here. It still is.
It is. It is definitely a sad reality. It is, and also because a lot of people feared, like, how is the food made? How is the food cooked for the children?
Yes.
So we do not have that at all. Like, I don't even know, like, maybe two schools out of the whole Cameroon like canteen, have like a cafeteria
Yes.
embedded in it, that you come to school, you go to the cafeteria, you come back home. Most of the school have what they call a canteen. It's a place where you go and buy food
Yes.
for
Yes.
to eat, but it's not free.
Wow. Yeah, I think in Brazil we have the same. Like, it depends the school you are. If you are in a public school in a rural area, a lot of kids just go to school to have a meal
Yes.
because sometimes they don't have it at home. So it's really important, and we know how important it is to learn that those kids are fed. And so it's very
Yes.
important, to development of their.
Yes.
And in my experience, we have a cantina, but we have a cafeteria, not a cantina, a cafeteria in the school, and we normally bring money and buy, some Coca-Cola. What is
Yes.
horrible for kids, I
Yes.
cannot forget to tell that. But yes, so that was the reality I was raised,
Yes.
and yeah, but that's that's not always like that.
Yeah.
Right.
In the US, it's very different. Here we have like cafeterias. Like, once you pay your school fees for college, everything is included.
Yes.
You don't have to pay anything else. So, but
Yes.
even back home, colleges actually have cafeterias. It's like an
Right.
education. A lot of colleges have the cafeteria.
Yes.
So,
A lot of them do.
Susie, I have a curiosity. You said that you speak in a French school. You were raised in a French school. So, do you have a French curriculum?
So I did not go to the I did not attend French school. I attended an English school, but I'm from a French family, so they don't speak English. So the school I
Mm.
attended was in English. We
Yes.
do
Yeah.
have
Yes.
a curriculum at school, because I'm from the first section. At school, a lot of people, what we do, we speak French at
Yes.
school a lot. Instead of speaking English, is the teacher that speaks English, and we the student, we
Yes.
just speak French. So
Ah.
So, do you have a? Oh, yeah. I just confused it. So you have English curriculum or American curriculum or a Cameroon curriculum?
the British, we
British.
are working on the British system.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
I got you. What about
Yeah.
in South Africa, Megan?
Same. If it's a public-based school, then so it would be following the British curriculum. There are quite a few independent schools these days, so you can do Cambridge learning. You can do, just about any variety of curriculum these days. But those are the things we never really knew about when we were going through high school, into college age, that kind of thing. It wasn't really such a big thing. It wasn't really available to all of us at the time, and now, luckily, it's opened up a little bit more available to our kids. But it doesn't help that the education system itself has sort of collapsed on the bottom end. So the quality of education going up to your college level is now so much worse. There's so many circumstances. But getting kids through the schooling to college level and beyond is the challenge now. So now that all of that is opened up, it's struggling getting them into that part of the system. that we are fighting with.
Wow. You're muted.
I'm sorry. So this is a very interesting topic. We have hours to talk, but we can't. Here is a podcast. So I have one last question, and then um, we can go on. So my question is, if you could change anything in the educational system of your country, what would it will be and why? So, Susie, do you have any solutions for the
Yes,
educational system in
yes,
your country?
especially the French part of the education. The English part is good, is a little bit better, I think, compared to like the, because we're colonized by France and British, so we have the French education section and the British education uh, way of doing things. But the French section, they have so many subjects that the child discovers his real like what he's interested in very late. It's in college that you start choosing your field, that you start knowing that okay, this is what I can do. Why in the English section you discover it at like they can start taking at like 12 years old. It's like, okay, what do
Yes,
I want to do? What do I want to do? Science? Do I want to do art? They start developing at that age. So I think the French section, like having starting to specialize the child early would be
yes,
such an amazing thing. And I think they're looking into it and how to start doing that, reducing the load. Like they're just giving you
yes,
everything instead of
yes,
telling you, like, okay, do you decide what can I be? Start deciding
yes,
at 10 years old, like, what do I want to be? What can I be?
yes,
Which field do I want to go? Like me at 12 years old, I was like, okay, you know, I am not an artist. History is not for me and will never be for me. Like reading
yes,
and all this stuff, I like numbers. I like computers, digits. I
yes,
work good well with that. So
yes,
at 12, I was like, okay, I'm going to the science part. And then I went to the science. So at 15, I was like, chemistry, I don't like it. I definitely want
yes,
to do mathematics and computer science. And so when I
yes,
went to high school, I went to a part of high school that deals with mathematics and computer science. That's what I did,
yes,
mathematics, computer science, and I added two other subjects. And so when I went to college, I was like, I know what I want to be. I don't have
yes,
any doubt. I am checking computer science, not I cannot go chemistry. So that's what sphere is
yes,
very important. Like
yes.
specialize the child.
Awesome. I
I
love the way
agree.
you are very focused on what would you love, and you have that very serious, and that's wonderful. That's part
Yes.
of your success, Susie. Yeah. What about you, Megan? What would you suggest for South Africa in
We
education?
might be here all day. We might be here all day, but I think that the top things for me, so for me, literacy is huge. I just think it underpins everything. You can't do mathematics, you can't read your mathematics question paper if you don't have literacy, right? So for me, literacy underpins everything, and I think a much stronger focus is needed throughout on literacy, especially the foundational phases. But then also, I'm one of those people that, I tend to see the kids that fall through the cracks. And they are not catered for. So when they've got a learning disability or they just are unsure about which track they are on, why do kids need to decide? For Susie was saying at 12 years old, some of them decide and they know exactly where they're going. Realistically speaking, I was done with school and I had some idea, but I've changed careers 7 times up to this point, and I've ended up in something totally different. Not that the experience doesn't help and that my education didn't help, but I feel it's just so unrealistic to put a child through an almost unrelated curriculum to life and then expect them to go and do life. So in my world, literacy and move them through the system so that they can actually explore more, wider, sort of wider berth, and then go, right, you are now at an age where you've got to start really focusing in, do some of that. But if you don't reach that point where you decide, it's okay. It's fine not to go to college immediately after you finished high school because you don't know. And I think that needs to be normalized, because we see too many kids starting college and dropping out because it's not what they thought it would be. And they are forced into some kind of box at that point in time. So that's my short version.
Wow, it's beautiful because every one of us have a different point of view and expectation about the educational system.
Yes.
And well, my feeling, as I said, that I wanted to have trees in my school because today when I see, backwards, what I did in my career, and I was like, I was always interested in a lot of things, and it was very, very hard for me when the teachers say, "Oh, this is geography time, this is history time, this is mathematics time," and I was like, "Oh, can we combine things?" Because in the reality, so facing what we are facing today, we have mixed the subject to have an
Yes.
answer. It's
Yes.
not a geography issue, it's not a mathematics issue, but it's a
Right.
combined issue, and
Right.
and that was my dream. And when we think about what we are facing in the globe today, a lot of careers doesn't exist yet,
Yes. Yes.
so how we are going to raise those kids for the challenges that are coming? And I think this
Yes.
is the question. I don't want to come in with a recipe with an answer,
Yes.
to the Ministry
Yes.
of Education in my country and say you should do this because that's crazy. But I would love to have more connection with the life and reality
Reality.
uh, in
Absolutely.
the school, because I think it's still the walls of a school and also in university are very hermetic. So
Yes.
how can we open this to prepare kids for the future? That's
Yes. For real
so
life.
for real life, yeah.
Yes.
So with that in mind, I think we are more than time to close this episode. And I really love it. I think we bring a lot of information about a lot of discussion. And I would love to know what you think about it. How is education in your
Mm.
country? Please subscribe, ask questions for us, and send what kind of discussion you suggest for us in the next episodes.
Yes.
And so, anything else,
No.
ladies? No?
I think
So,
we are ready to wrap.
Yeah.
so I thank you so much. I appreciate, and that's it. Thank you. See you next.
Bye,
Bye
guys.
bye.
We're crossing oceans, crossing skies, lifting each other as we rise. No more limits, no more walls. Together we answer the world's calls. World without borders, we are free, telling the stories of humanity. No more divide, we stand as one. Together, together, our journey's begun.